Huh?
You have a setting for background noise that was set to auto. We set that to low, and they seem to go work fine now.
Okay.
So
We were just
because
background
we would
noise,
test
huh?
it and everything would work fine, then we'd get everybody in here and it wouldn't work. It was that background noise.
We were somewhere it was conversations. Think, yeah. You- Conversations.
You got a
So, anytime that Western Grove one.
It just started on the way over here.
yeah, your display's going out.
Mics in the seat. We're not sure how they work, but if you don't want anything recorded, don't say it.
Do you need
Yeah.
another option?
No,
I think they pick up
I have my
whispers,
backup.
and they did. Let's see. 28. Tom's the only one. Wonder if they're on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm the only one not here. Tom will be here. And Jake will come. Oh, there he is. Yes, his name is his Okay, 1 minute. Does it matter if we move these mics around?
And you can move them so they're where you want them to be.
So I'm gonna set it right over here in front of Wayne.
I'll do this kind of thing. Oh yeah, it's definitely wigging out.
Good afternoon. Uh, uh, we know 6. Oh, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6.
Oh,
Ours disappeared.
we have council. Who will know? Uh, a second on the minutes if they're taken care of. Move to approve the minutes of June 22nd.
Second.
They may be a little slow to unmute, so what we do is and then anyone says anything. No. Unanimously. Right. I do not. Okay. Hearing none. Uh, if you show something up there, if we can work.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
Dave.
right.
Mayor, we cannot hear you.
Everything was going through okay.
And this one's out.
Oh, it's still not working there, Tony. I can move right here. Let me see that back mirror.
Are you able to hear us clearly? No?
Can you hear
Very faint.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't hear anything on this end.
Okay, now we're going to switch a little bit. Can you hear that?
Yes,
Is that a lot better?
100% better.
Okay. What we've got is a portable mic, and as we use that here, I think, Councilwoman Lang, if you'll continue to speak or just ask a question or sing a song for a minute so we can see how well we hear you.
Okay. I don't sing, so you're just going to get question and answers. But I'm not sure if your problem was you were leaning back too far in your chair and not close enough to the mic.
Okay.
We've got 3 mics in front of him now, so he should be able to be heard.
Well, and I can hear you fine, Dom.
Okay?
Oh, you can hear Don okay?
Yes.
Try just your regular mic.
Just don't lean back on your chair.
Okay. Now can you hear me? Or is it faint?
It fades and it kind of cuts out.
Does it sound a little better here?
Yes.
What about over here?
Nope.
Maybe that was bad.
That one I think is bad. This one works better. Now let's try this one. Is that one okay?
A lot better. Yep.
Okay. Okay, I've turned this one off. We're going to try it, but please, if you miss anything, feel free to raise the alert somewhere, because we want to make sure you hear everything.
Yeah, right now you're going out again.
I'm going out. And
You're
I'm
fading.
not here in the first place, so when I go through that, I'm out a long way. Okay, then maybe I'll try it with this portable microphone, and we'll kind of go from there. But please, any council members participating electronically, we'll try and keep an eye on those, and if staff would assist in that, if they're waving or anything, please alert us, or raising a hand electronically. Okay. With that then, not hearing any questions or concerns on our agendas for later tonight, we'll go on to proclamations for next week. A proclamation encouraging the city to learn about and use the city's trail system. And this is a new one.
Trails.
Yes, and I have our youth city council advisor Clover Mears here.
Oh, Clover. That's not Clover.
Oh, that's why. Okay. So we're going to have a little presentation on this.
Maybe just a little commentary?
Yes.
Which microphone works?
Well, let's try this one up here.
We didn't really prepare a whole lot because the ordinance is very simple. We just want to encourage people to get out there and use the trails, especially after this last year with COVID and everybody being locked inside. We want the citizens to be aware of and to utilize all the outdoor recreation activities that we have available in the city, especially with this being Parks and Rec month. So we're trying to
Okay.
get in line with that.
Now, council, did that come through okay from that microphone?
Yes, it did.
Okay, great. Any questions? Oh, be on
I
our,
just have an editing question.
okay, yes.
On the last line, I don't want to declare the month of July to be Use the Trails Day.
Okay, we'll fix that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So with that,
Will we be reading this next week?
it is likely on that one. I don't know if any of this came from the youth council, if any of them will be there. Or did this originate with the city youth council? So will any of them be here? Okay, then yes, we'll read it.
Yeah.
Any volunteers for that?
I'm a youth kid, I can do it.
Okay, yeah. We'll ask our most youthful in heart member. Okay, then with that, next we go to,
Be here next week.
oh, you won't be here?
I'll be online.
I'd be happy to read it, Mayor.
Okay, our Mayor Pro Tem will take care of that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Always have Mayor Pro Tem do it unless. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing scheduled for next week. This will be application GPZ-9 2021 filed by Russell Platt. And in conjunction with that, when we do officially take any action next week, we will consider ordinance 21-43, 21-44, and resolution 21-112. This is for property at 2351 South Redwood Road. And there's Steve Pastorick back there.
Thank you, Mayor. Just make room for my laptop here.
Okay, Steve, you're going to speak up.
Yep, I'll get closer here, up close and personal with the mic. So I'm going to share or start the presentation. So this application involves two properties that are on Redwood Road. So they total 1.8 acres. The current zoning is C2, and the current general plan is general commercial. It is on the screen. The requested zoning here is the RM zone, and the requested general plan is high-density residential.
I am going to go to.
Just to orient the council, the property that's to the east and south would be townhomes. That's the Red Oaks Townhome Development. The property to the north is a home, and then on the west side of Redwood, you have commercial uses. And then the property did have a couple of homes on it, but those homes were demolished. Here's just a close-up of that. Just a few images of the property. This is looking across the property. You can see the Red Oaks townhomes in the distance there. This is looking north across the property. And then you can see the home that's to the north in the distance there. This would be looking again north, but along Redwood Road, so you can see where the property is currently fenced. This would be on the south side of the property looking to the east. So again, you have the townhomes there along the southern border. This is the concept plan. So there are a total of 24 units that are proposed. And it's a combination of some units that are 3 stories, and then you have the units that are the ones more toward the east are a combination of 2 and 3 stories, and I'll show some elevations here in a minute. So all the units labeled units A and B are 3 stories, and then the units that are C vary between 2 and 3 stories. So this just shows the floor plan of the Unit A, which again is a 3-story unit, and these are very similar. You've seen in other townhome projects where you have the garage on the main level with typically a small amount of living space, and then on the second level you have the kitchen and living, and then third level you have the bedrooms. And then all of these units would have a rooftop deck, so you can see that on the bottom right would be the rooftop deck. Unit B is similar, and just a slightly different configuration. And then the C units, which would be the ones to the east, again, you have the garage and bonus room on the main level, kitchen, living, and then bedrooms on the second level. And then the third level, a portion is just the rooftop deck, and then the other portion is a master bedroom. So these are just some renderings, and I realize these are small, so it's a little bit tricky to make these out. So these, I think, are the more helpful. These are the renderings. So these would be the units A and B that you would see along Redwood Road. If the council's familiar with the Cobalt Landing development that's on Redwood Road, just south of Paris Furniture, these units are very similar. In fact, the same developer is proposing these. So just another rendering, just with more units, same style. And this would be the units that they're more on the east side. So you can see these vary between 2 and 3 stories. So above the 2-story portion is where you would have the rooftop deck. And then the 3rd-story portion would be the 3rd bedroom. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval subject to a development agreement. So, and again, just to recap, there's 24 units. Unit sizes range from, I believe it was about 1,800 square feet to over 2,000 square feet. Yeah, so the smallest unit was 1,763 square feet, and then the larger unit was 2,117 square feet. Any questions on this application? Yes, sir.
Is the applicant asking for any concessions on parking, unit size, building materials, or is it simply a zoning question? If we approve the zoning, then they're building to all of our requirements and specifications.
Right, I would say the one exception would be, and this is one of staff we had suggested to the Planning Commission, is along the north side of the property, there's a home there, but it's a very deep parcel. And normally the code would require a greater setback when you're next to a residential setting like that. But in this case, our general plan anticipates that those properties that are kind of sandwiched between this property and a 7-Eleven would eventually redevelop into something else. So we had suggested an exception on that setback on the north side, but on the south side, the development agreement basically holds them to the required setback between the existing townhomes, because those are 2 stories. So that would be the one exception on the setback there.
And we hear anything from the owner or occupant of that home or those homes on the north?
We've not. And I believe that property, and I can confirm this, but I believe that's a rental property.
How old are the townhomes to the south and east?
Those were built in the early 2000s, I believe.
And how does this project compare with those?
So those units are quite a bit smaller, and those have single-car garages, whereas these are all 2-car garages. Also, those are all 2-story units. These are, mostly 3, and then some units that are 2 to 3.
Okay, thanks, Steve. That's all I have.
I know the pictures. Everything else kind of fades out.
There are, so in the development agreement, there are some revisions they would need to make to this product. So the first is that these don't reflect it, but they do need to add stone. So there would be stone added to these units we're looking at now, as well as the previous ones. The other thing is they were required to put in windows in the garage doors. And then also, whenever you can see here, there's a couple of places where there's changes in the materials, where you have, for example, a transitioning from like a white to more of a light blue color, that they would add more relief or changes in the plane, if you will, so there's more relief or shadow or depth in the building, if that makes sense. So there were some specific provisions added to add some enhancements to these buildings that are in the text.
Steve, have those items been added to the development agreement, the 4 items that the planning commission attached to their motion?
So just looking at the planning commission's motion here.
So I show that,
Yes, so those, so if you look in the meeting minutes, those items were included in the development agreement.
okay, so they went with alternate 1 and then the 4 additions. And so do we have to add that to our motion if we're going to do it? Or is it if we choose to approve this motion, or is it going to be just approve it as is?
It would be approving it as is. So the items that the planning commission included were included in the development agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, council members? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our next one, which is public hearing scheduled for application SA-4 2020, filed by UDOT. Final plat approval, 5920 West, 4165 South. Who's going to handle this?
Mr. Lehman, is it? Is he on?
There he is. Mr. Lehman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Steve Lehman with the Planning and Zoning Division. This first application is a request from the Utah Department of Transportation. And while the presentation is being pulled up, this is an application that is a cleanup of sorts due to the Mountain View corridor being installed just south of 4100 South, west of Hunter High School. So we'll just get this map up so you can see it a little bit better here. So this map that you're looking at here is an illustration from 2010. The reason that I wanted to start out with this particular photo is that it shows the area of the Hunter Village subdivision highlighted in red. The existing homes highlighted in yellow are not affected by the plat amendment and are staying. They are existing and won't be affected by what the council will most likely do next week in the review of this. So this shows the Hunter Cove subdivision. These subdivisions were recorded in 1994 with Salt Lake County. There were 2 access points coming off of 4100 South, and they terminated in a variety of street patterns and cul-de-sacs, as you can see here. The spot on the corner there where the gray building is no longer there. That is the new Maverick gas station that was recently completed and open for business. So this subdivision application is intending to amend various lots and streets as originally platted in Hunter Cove due to the Mountain View corridor, and we'll show you that in just a moment. So if we can go to the next slide. So this is a more recent photograph. You can see the Mountain View corridor in place. You can see the old lots as they were originally platted. That is part of the application request, is to vacate those lots and part of the streets that were originally part of the Hunter Cove subdivision. Once again, the existing properties that you see here are single-family homes that will be unaffected by the application. We did take a couple of photographs just to give you a flavor for what is here. So this slide is taken from 60th West looking to the east. The property off to the left side there where the two signs are is known as the Sadigi subdivision now. That was a subdivision that the council approved a number of months ago, and we expect to start seeing homes there in the near future. The next slide is looking due north. So this is the first cul-de-sac. The coming into the subdivision, the wall that you see in the background is adjacent to 4100 South. That wall was constructed as part of the Mountain View project. Next slide is looking across the street from that home that you saw on the left. This is a vacant property still owned by the Utah Department of Transportation. We would expect that there may be a new single-family home there in the future once UDOT decides to sell that property. The next slide is looking at the extreme east of the subdivision. As you know, with the Mountain View corridor, there is a trail system. This is the trail system looking to the north as it crosses up and over 4100 South. The next slide. This is a new roadway that was installed, if you recall, when the access on 4100 South was terminated for both the subdivision and Hunter High School. A secondary access was needed, and this is the road that provides that access. So this is looking due south. The next slide is showing looking straight east. That is the overpass of the Mountain View corridor and the roadway that leads to Hunter High School. The next slide shows us looking back. So we're looking to the west now, and you can start to see some of the ball fields that are associated with the school. And then the next slide is a copy of the subdivision plat. So essentially what we're doing here is the road that is a darker shadow, Timber Oaks Lane, that will be vacated as part of the application. The other roads there, Wolverine Way, Rushford Oaks Court, those are new rights of way that will be platted as part of the subdivision. So essentially this plat is a cleanup of sorts. Unfortunately with UDOT, we never seem to get these applications when the work is being done. They always follow their platting up after the fact. But this is just a cleanup to amend certain lots, to vacate streets and parcels that were platted as part of the Hunter Cove subdivision. And that is our report.
Council, any questions, comments? Hearing none, then I guess we're ready to move on to the next public hearing applications, SA-4-2021. Winco Foods, 2616 South, 5600 West. And this one is ordinance 21-46.
Thank you, Mayor. This application is a request from
Okay, go
Winco. Thank you, Mayor. This application is a request from Winco Foods. The West Valley Pavilion subdivision was recorded in 2008, and it includes the Winco store, which is highlighted in this illustration there, the large building up the north at the top of the red box. There are some other ancillary uses on the perimeter of the subdivision. You have Popeyes, you've got a Maverick store once again, and some other businesses there that were part of the original subdivision. The piece of property that is being addressed tonight is Lot 1, which is highlighted in red. The purpose for this application is for Winco to create a new lot for a new commercial building. So 5600 West is on the east there, and Parkway Boulevard is on the south side of the subdivision. The next slide just shows a zoomed in version. So you can see that there's a very large parking lot that is not 100% used. There's ample parking for the Winco store itself. So the intent is to take at the southeast corner or the bottom right of this illustration to plat one new building lot. We did take a couple of photographs to show you as well. The first photograph is taken up from the east side of 5600 West, looking back at the Winco site. So you can see the Winco store off to the right, and the flower patch sits in a multi-retail building off to the left. So this is sort of this area that you see right in front of the, or right in the center of the slide is where the new lot will be platted. The next slide is looking from the Winco parking lot back across the site. So this area is the location for the new building that will be constructed here. And the last slide I believe we have shows the entrance into the Winco shopping center from 5600 West. That provides the main access into the development. And then the last illustration we have is of the plat itself. So in the far, or the bottom right of the screen there, we've highlighted the location of the new lot. It will be approximately 1 acre in size, just a little bit over 1 acre. Access to the subdivision will be gained through reciprocal access easements that were platted and recorded as part of the original subdivision plat. All of those were taken care of through an operating easement agreement when Winco platted the subdivision in 2008. In summary, this application takes and amends Lot 1 of the West Valley Pavilion subdivision and creates a new lot for a future commercial retail building. And that is our report.
Council, any questions?
Just curious, I mean, this, I don't think should affect our decision, but do we know what the plans are for that lot, or who would be the tenant or business moving in there?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Councilman Bueller. Jody Knapp in our office is working on a conditional use application for a new multi-tenant building. It's our understanding that there will be 1 and potentially 2 restaurants in the building, and the third space will just be a retail business of some sort. We're not exactly sure of names just yet, but it will be a 3-unit building.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Good spot for a Jack in the Box, just saying.
The pie.
Hearing no further comments? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's see. Next we go to our Resolution 21-113, ratifying the city manager's appointment of Dan Johnson as Public Works Director. We've set aside 45 minutes to discuss that, so. Or maybe not.
We should be more like Congress, huh?
Ask him what he did when he was a teenager
How his
or in college.
experience was.
Yeah. Okay. My understanding is that, did you say that would not be done next week?
Oh, it will be done next week.
Will be done next week.
In council meeting, Mayor.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah. All right, so we'll take care of that next week. With that then, we have our consent agenda. A number of items here. You'll see listed resolutions 21-15 through 21-23. And all except for the last 2 are on the 4700 South project. In fact, that's most of those circles and that actually abut right up onto 4700 South. And then the last 2, South Stanton Drive What are those on?
It's a different project. Dan, do you want to speak to those?
Yes, the other two right-of-way transactions are, they're for the Stanton Drive Storm Drain Project. And they really, as we impact pedestrian ramps, we end up having to, there's a little bit of private property impact and on this storm drain project. And so that's what those other two are.
Okay. Not hearing any further comments. Thank you. Next are communications. We have the inland port update. Are we recording this video?
See how it works for short, girl. Is that too loud? Fine. I do have to bend over quite a ways. Okay, Nicole Cottle with administration, just providing a quick update to the council on Inland Port. So as you know, Inland Port was passed by the legislature in 2018. There was a year of what I would call stagnant progress, just due to the normal, almost like a startup of a business that occurred. You'll recall my last update, we talked about the executive director that the board hired. Sorry, let me back up. I represent the city. I sit on the board on behalf of the council, representing the city on the board. As a board, we hired an executive director, Jack Hedge, who came to us from the Port of Long Beach, and who has made our year of inactivity into another year of great activity. So as we sit today, we have a business plan, which fits exactly with how you would think it would look. The area has been mapped very significantly. We, in fact, here in the city have almost completely built out the area of our city now that exists there. Of course, we knew the plans were to do that, but you'll see that almost last building is built out at our, or we're getting to the last building. So we're nearing completion of our portion of Inland Port as it sits. We will see as a city some additional funding from Inland Port with regards to some increased infrastructure that we need to put in on our side. So Dan Johnson and Lincoln Schurtz are working with the port to garner some additional transportation dollars, basically. As well as the port signed a deal with the Port of Long Beach and also the Port of Oakland, I think is the other one, to bring in a more efficient way some of the supply chain hiccups that were occurring during the pandemic. So it's kind of an exciting part as well. So now we only have 4 meetings a year. At the last meeting, I was elected chair of the board. I only tell that to the council because that comes with some, sometimes those jobs are harder than other jobs. And so the historical chair representatives have had an interesting ride. I think it's calmed down enough now that we'll probably be just fine, but I wanted you to be aware of that as well. And I can take any questions. Really, the Inland Port is moving along. Just as expected when we first entered in, it would be of only benefit to us because we were prepared and under contract and had most of our facilities built. So that's how it's turned out. But happy to answer any questions that you might have or anything you might be hearing. Always, if you hear from constituents or have questions, I can answer those anytime. No questions, I'll say thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Wow. We're getting through this in timely. By the way, we will have a closed session tonight, or after this, or at the end of this meeting. Council calendar, any issues there? Hearing none, we'll move on to potential future agenda items.
Mayor, I actually did have a comment or a question. Did I miss something at the very beginning, or did we not talk about the special RDA agenda? Did we talk about that or not?
Well, we brought it up. Hadn't we already talked about that?
You and I did talk about that in an
Oh.
earlier meeting, and I couldn't remember, but it is on the agenda, so we have Jeff
But
available.
aren't we having that meeting tonight?
No, or
Yes.
Yes, we are.
we are.
And so we talked about it last
Did we?
time.
That's, I couldn't remember. It's been 2
Yeah,
months ago.
I had to think about it.
Good. Okay, all right. Just
Yeah,
wanted to
I
make
think everyone's aware, Hexel and, okay. So, and no one said they had any more questions. There weren't any changes to it, so. Hearing no potential future agenda items, then council reports. Okay.
See if this mic works. Karen's gone off video, but can you hear me, Karen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Last night I attended the opening of the summer concert series at Utah Cultural Celebration Center. Utah Symphony played for about an hour and a half down there and was very well attended. We also had Baile Folklorico ahead of that doing their presentation, and because the symphony was using Latin composers and Latin music. So it was very well attended, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the series this year. That's it.
Okay. Any other reports? Hearing none. Then we do need a motion to go into a closed session for the purpose of our quarterly litigation update and also for professional competence. And I believe we do that as a separate meeting.
The meeting is the same. One is recorded and one is not. The professional competency
No,
one.
I meant
What
for
do you mean
them,
as far as the,
for
Yes,
council.
yes.
Yeah. So when we adjourn, the council members joining electronically will have to sign back in to a separate meeting that the public cannot sign into. So what we'll do then is we'll take the traditional motion to conclude our business here in our regular portion of our meeting for the purpose of going into a closed session to discuss those two issues, litigation and potential litigation and professional competency.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. That's properly before us. Then without objection, I think we can do that without voice vote, or without a roll call vote. We can do it with voice, right?
Nicole's on.
Yes, sir. It just has to be a supermajority. So if there were any opposition, we could do a roll call vote. but-
Okay, then
Well,
without
voice vote.
objection, I'll rule the motion passes. Hearing no objections, it was unanimous, so I think that met the requirement. Thank you all who have joined, both here and electronically. That will conclude our regular work. We will adjourn without any further business immediately following that closed session. And we'll see you all at 6:30.